That was weird. Weird stutter. Welcome to Evilive, the live media commentary show that answers the question, Brightburn is Superman. Brightburn, not Big Bird. Superman is Brightburn. Wasn't really a question, but if you know, you know. All right, subscribe if you're new to the channel because today we're reviewing James Gunn's Superman 2025.
Yeah.
So what were your initial thoughts?
So it's mixed. It's funny. Like, I came out of this not knowing if I loved it, if I was disappointed. It's kind of like in between.
Yeah.
I will say it's the best looking Superman movie of all time. Just unbelievable. And we can get into some of the details as to, I think, why. But best looking Superman, there was so many great elements. But I think we've talked in some of the previous reviews. If you give me a terrible movie like Superman 3, like me and you will find positive things to talk about.
Right.
But if you give me a movie that's like on the cusp of greatness and doesn't land it, I'm actually more frustrated and disappointed than I was with Superman 3. So that's kind of where I'm at. It's like so close to being good, but there were some things that really bothered me.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I just initially out of the theater, I was like, wow, that was really great. It was amazing. And I started thinking about things and I started sort of diving into the character in my head a little bit and thinking about how we would have this conversation. And I'm not as thrilled as I was. There are some elements of this film that I love, absolutely love. And then there's stuff that just doesn't land. And in the theater, in the moment, you're sort of swept up with the height of the action and the humor and everything. And this is the exact same thing that I felt from the first Justice League film in the theater, Joss Whedon's. Watching it in the theater, I was sort of swept up with the music and seeing Superman come back finally, and I was just sort of excited about it. And so I came out of the theater and I was super stoked, and I was like, that's the best Superman film I've ever seen, because when Superman finally does show up, he's like badass and he's fighting the Justice League, and then he's, defeating Steppenwolf, and I just thought it was awesome. But then upon reflection, I was like, it's actually not a very good film. There's real problems. And so I think there's similar things in this one. But I don't think the lore, and we'll get in this in just a second, the lore isn't as ripped to shreds as people are saying it is. This is actually just taking what other people have already done before, all of it. So let's put a pin in that. As this is directed and written by James Gunn. Cinematography was by Henry Braham, and I think we should note that because it is, like you had mentioned, a beautiful looking film. Vibrant colors, bright, the CGI is all clean looking to me, especially the dog Crypto. I thought that was great.
Yeah. And I think this is one of the reasons why you go with an experienced director for a big movie like this. Like, a lot of times you hear people say, oh, I want like a fresh take. I'll give it to like an independent director. Yeah, not so much for something like this, because I think James Gunn's experience with the Guardians of the Galaxy movies and Suicide Squad really comes into play. Like, the way this was shot, and there was some technical things if you're interested. I'm kind of a nerd with some of the cameras that they use, which was just different than anything else. So they use red digital cinema cameras, which focus on capturing high resolution imagery. The cinematographer Henry Braham deserves an Oscar, in my opinion. The film utilizes Leica tri-LMR lenses. I mean, I was going to suggest that, but the fact that they picked up on it anyway. But if you notice, there's some shots where like Superman takes up directly straight up, and it's like the camera shakes and tries to follow him but can't keep up with him. Like little touches like that. Like, I never noticed it, but like that makes it feel like Superman's even faster than he is from previous movies, or when he breaks the glass to get out of the prison, the way the glass was shot, all of that. It's the best looking Superman movie of all time, in my opinion.
Yeah, I have to agree. It was just very, very beautiful. So the music was John Murphy and David Fleming. I had a bit of a problem with the music because it felt too Top Gun.
Yes,
it was.
You're right. That's good.
That steel guitar, and I can't not hear Top Gun whenever I hear that. And like Top Gun Maverick, the new one. And so every time that score would hit and it would go down, down, I was just like, oh, come on, man.
Yeah.
You just took me out of the universe.
That's a great point, and James Gunn has referenced that particular movie as
Yeah,
that was like his target goal for this. So it was too on the nose for that. You're right. Yeah,
yeah,
it
it drove me
wasn't.
nuts. Ugh.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
But I mean, when we did hear the original score, the John Williams Superman theme, like originally, that just hits. It's coming home. Like, okay, we are
Yeah.
returning to a more sort of boy next door Cub Scout version of Superman. This is going to be really awesome. And then that Top Gun kicks in, and I'm just like, oh, record scratch. Like, what are you
Yeah.
doing? What are you doing? So this was released July 11th. Had a budget of $225 million, and it only brought in $272.8 million, which is not enough to even break even. I mean, I'm sure in its lifespan it's going to do fine, but on opening day, like weekend, that's not good.
It's interesting that you brought that up because I think it's important in this case with the numbers because yeah, 225 million and then another 125 million on global marketing. Some people think that that's even on the low side that they're not releasing the true numbers which are even higher.
Yeah,
So at the moment it's 400 million worldwide. But I think the interesting thing in the numbers because it's probably breaking even but it's not like 750 million or a
yeah,
billion like Avengers. I think the interesting part in the numbers though is if you look at it further and you look at the breakdown in previous Superman movies, the ratio of worldwide box office to domestic was much bigger. And I think it's interesting because I think America right now in the world is not looked at in the same positive vein that it was from the previous Superman movies. And I think a movie about a American superhero saving the world in this climate with some of the decisions that America has been making lately, I just think it does not resonate worldwide. I think there's a real reason why it's not doing so well in the global box office. And I
that's
think that's
interesting.
telling.
Yeah, I mean, Superman movies have never been like the biggest, income earners ever, but they've always done well. This one, with all the hype, I would have just thought it would have done better because even the people who do have criticisms still enjoyed it. They still have elements of it that they love. It wasn't like when Whedon's Justice League came out and everyone, or Batman v Superman, and there was just this huge schism of people who just shit on it constantly. I'm not seeing that, and I'm sure it's there because it's the internet. But by and large, it seems like everyone's enjoying, if not really liking, this film. So the numbers are really really surprising to me. But be that as it may, it's not going to change anything. They're still going to move forward with the DCU or DU or whatever the hell they're going to call it, and they're still going to continue making great movies, hopefully. So. Um, Rotten Tomatoes has this at 83% fresh, 92% audience score, which that tracks in my opinion. IMDb has it at 7.6 out of 10, which, yeah, that also kind of tracks with that sort of 83% fresh.
Those are
Um,
good numbers.
yeah.
I think my opinion of it is less than that. I think if I had to encapsulate my biggest issue with it
Hmm.
is the tone. It's
Like
so
this right here.
thank you. That's the perfect example. That's why you're a master of your craft. Exactly. It has it has elements of like a beautiful storyline, like that conversation he has with his father on the porch. I was in tears with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But then you give that to me, and then you give me this character, this take on Tessmacher a second later, or just the way Mr. Terrific is, he has that battle scene where he can't even get touched,
Mhm.
or Lex Luthor's walking and like a blade goes right past him and he doesn't blink. Like, am I supposed to be taking this serious? Are you making fun of me? Like the difference in tone, the jokes were just way over done in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I don't know because there's some really good elements. Even the Tessmacher character, that the fact that she was actually smarter than she was letting on, that was a nice story beat.
Hmm.
That the selfies were actually had a purpose to it. I thought
Yeah.
that was an interesting story beat. But just the way her character acts the rest of the movie, I don't know if I'm supposed to be taking this movie seriously or not. It's very very disparate in tone.
Yeah. And the more I thought about it after having left the theater, the more I'm thinking this is more like Superboy than Superman to me. because everything is like dropped down to a more juvenile scope. The
Right.
jokes, constant, sort of James Gunn humor references all throughout in every character. It just makes me think, well, this isn't a serious film, and you can have a film that looks like this that tells an intriguing story that's adult without it being, the DCEU. We just don't see people doing it, and I saw someone respond to this film in this way, and it sort of is kind of making sense to me now that this is an overreaction from Batman v Superman or the Justice League, where they're like, that was too gritty and dark. We need to make this super light and humory while still trying to tell a Superman movie or a Superman story. And
Right.
like when you distill this movie down to its central core, there, like, the main storyline is Lex Luthor somehow cloned Superman and is using him to beat up Superman and sort of get his focus away so he can have this civil war play out in some third world part of the third world country, and he gets half of that country. Like, that's the whole thing. So this is literally the Jet Reeves's Superman movies sort of distilled down in storyline, because that's all that Lex Luthor was trying to do, was get property. One,
Right.
two, three, four, and then returns. That was all. The whole point was all just real estate, and that's all that this one is. And then to clone Superman, well, we saw that in those films too, and it played out a little goofier, but still.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, that's like the whole story, and then you throw in all this side stuff about Superman's, the real message of why he was sent here, and Crypto and Supergirl, and the other, Justice Team or whatever they were called. I can't remember. You
Oh,
just
Justice Gang.
gang, yeah, Justice Gang. You run into that, and you're like, well, you don't need any of that. You could just tell this story, make it less jokes, have it look and feel the same way, and it's much more interesting. Even though distilling it down to the whole, what is his name? Jimmy Olsen. He's the only reason anyone figured anything out. If it wasn't for him having like magic dick that all women want, then no one would have learned anything. And
Right.
they have this Miss Tessmacher, now I will forever call her that, attraction to him, but they never explore how that first came about. Why is that such a big deal? Why is he wearing that Panther spray that 70%? Yeah, Sex Panther. 70% of the time it works 100% of the time. Like, what is it about him?
Yeah.
So I don't know. What did you think of Jimmy Olsen? Because he was a huge pivotal point of this movie.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think the last take on Jimmy Olsen that we saw cinematically, doesn't he get like killed instantly?
Yeah.
So this could be like an overreaction. Like, all right, we're gonna take care of this character a little bit more. I thought it was like a fun story beat. The fact that all of a sudden he's like the sex symbol and not like obviously this bulking Clark Kent
Right.
guy. So I enjoy fun. I like fun, but I just think that when you throw that in the same movie, stuff like that, alongside the Superman preventing a country from invading another one, which obviously is analogous to Ukraine and Russia, so you're bringing in elements that are like so important in the world, and I'm like, I want it to be Andor. Like, if you're going to bring in serious stuff, I want it to be like Star Wars Andor, where it's like really hitting home and is very, very close to the vest.
Yeah.
So it's just it's tough. It's tough to reconcile both of those. But Jimmy Olsen, I thought it was fun. I liked it.
Yeah. And I like the actor. I think he did a great job. I mean, I always thought everything that he's done. His name is Skylar Gisondo. I've seen him in a number of things, and it's always entertaining. He's a good actor.
Yeah.
All right, so let's dive into Superman here a little bit, because David Corenswet, I thought he did a great job as Superman. Like, I believed he was Superman, but again, it was a little more Superboy because of his naivete. He's so fish out of water in so many ways that make no sense to me. Like, why? If he was raised by his parents, did they not teach him like consequences? Like, they just said, no, we encourage you to do what you think is best damn the consequences, or is he ever considering? You know, no, he's always just acting. Like there's that conversation between him and Lois in the interview where he's like, "They were going to die. People were going to die." And she's like, "Yeah, but you never considered like what are the repercussions of your actions at all?" Like I feel like as an adult, as someone who has children, we have to teach them to understand consequences of their actions, not just always do the right thing, because that is very much perspective based, not reality based. And everything that you do in life has some form of a consequence, whether it's good or bad. There are things that come out of it. So, especially if you're going to be dipping your toe in these global waters, you got to think about the repercussions of it and how that's going to then reflect back on where you live, the United States, or the people you love. You know, I don't know. Did that like bother you when you were watching it at all?
Yeah, and I think also for this, like what's his name, Corningswet. I thought
Corenswet.
he, yeah, I thought he did a good job portraying the character, but I think for some reason I didn't have that connection with him that I had with Cavill or even Christopher Reeve. I think part of it was this a story element where the way it started out, they don't show you him growing up. Like we talked about Man of Steel, that great scene where Superman as a boy is in class and the X-ray vision kicks on for the first time and how terrified he was, and then Diane Lane comes. Just a beautiful scene, and you're
Mm-hmm.
connected with that character because they skipped all that. And I wanted to get your opinion on that story beat of starting the movie and saying just in lines of dialogue, skipping the entire origin story. I get it, everyone knows the Superman story, but I think it made me not connected to the character because you didn't see that growth. You're just catching him in like one instance, having that argument with Lois Lane, and that's kind of your introduction to him
Yeah.
during that interview. So I thought he did a good job portraying the character, but I didn't feel connected to him, and I think maybe that's why.
I think that's a brilliant insight. You're 100% right. The the strength of the Superman mythos is that we relate with him when he's going through his puberty. We all went through weird experiences in life, and you have to do the gauntlet that is school, the public school system, and everything about that. When we see it in relation to a superhero or a supervillain, we can then relate and connect to them. And when you strip all that away, and we're just supposed to assume we already know, and then you tell us that the lore is different, well, then you're actually doing yourself a disservice because it's not the person that we thought we knew coming into it. It's someone totally different. What other different experiences do they have if everything else is different? So yeah,
Exactly.
I think that's a
And
really great.
especially and his father didn't die. That was a huge part of what made Superman grow up,
Yeah,
or Clark Kent grow up, was having to take care of his mom, take care of the farm, moving to the city without his dad for emotional support. And so that's a huge thing that they changed.
yeah.
And again, since we don't know the character's, childhood, that really, changes what we know about the character, and then we're not connected to him. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought that was strange.
It's a little bit frustrating to watch. I do have to just throw out there the clothing and the sets. Like it was very 1920s vibe, but brought into a modern day era. Even the pants that Superman was wearing as Clark Kent, when he and Lois were having their interview, and the shirt, it like the waist went up really high to like above the belly, like in the old 1920s pants. I mean,
Yeah.
it all felt, and that's my favorite era of everything. So I loved the style. I loved how they portrayed everyone. And then when they started talking about, well, I was punk rock, and oh, I was punk rock too. I like this band. She's like, that band's not punk rock. Like those are conversations that I have with my friends, and it felt really good. But then you have that joke of the weird alien anomaly being fought by the Green Lantern or the Justice Group or whatever gang in the background, and then they're trying to have this serious moment, and you're like, this is not a good juxtaposition here.
That's a perfect example of, I think, what bothered me most about this movie is there's a great conversation. I'm invested in the characters, but I'm distracted by the silliness in the background, and I'm not sure if I'm supposed to take this as canon, as serious, or if I'm supposed to just take it as a joke and then nothing matters in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what do you think about the glasses being hypnotic glasses?
Well, I've been arguing for that for a long time, so I like that idea. So I actually like cheered in the theater. I was like, yeah, but it because really it doesn't make sense, you know. And I think that was from a comic book storyline too. Someone told me afterwards, so it wasn't invented for the movie.
Yeah.
But the idea that it's you know, the glasses have that effect. It's not just the fact that you know, people can't seem to notice that he looks exactly like
Everyone's
Superman.
just stupid. Yeah. I never heard of it before, and the only thing I kept asking myself was, well, where the hell to get him? Did he make him? Is he like a tech
Yeah,
genius? Is it magic? Like, where did they come from? I want to know. I get
that's
that,
true.
like, metahumans have been around for 300 years. They set that up already. So someone might have come up with this, but it seems like that's a very Lex Luthor thing, not a, I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good
I would like
point.
to know where it comes from in the comics, just for clarity.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane. How'd you feel she did?
I thought she did a very good job. I still think Amy Adams did the best job of all the portrayals, and I love that we reviewed the other movies before this one because
Yeah.
now I have a frame of reference. So I really appreciate that. Um, I thought she did a good job. The only thing that bothered me was it was that 12-minute interview scene, and supposedly these are two characters that are in the early stages of falling in love. And I get that she's a journalist and she's doing her job, but she was very confrontational in that interview, and she was almost seeming to like try to like go against every decision that he made. She brought up some good points. Did you talk to the Secretary of State before you invaded that other country? You know, did you talk to the president? But she was so confrontational that it made me like aggravated with her. And it was so early on in the movie that I was already like not liking her. But then she did, as the movie went on, she did, you know, buy back that you know, the goodwill or whatever
Hmm.
that I had for her. So by the end of the movie, I liked her again. But that scene was off-putting to me. How did
Oh,
you feel
wow.
about it?
Yeah, I hit the opposite end of that. I thought it
Okay.
was she was taking a very hard-nosed, like, investigative journalist approach. Just like everyone's relationship with each other, like we have a version with each other and then a version without. When I go to my office and I'm talking to the designers on my team and I'm directing them and they're presenting their artwork and I'm critiquing it, I am a totally different human being than I am at home with my wife or my family. And so if, for example, my daughter or my wife said, "Hey, I designed this, can you give me your opinion?" Whenever a friend does that, I always tell them, "Are you sure you want me to tell you? Because I'm going to be critical and I'm going to be honest because that is how I am professionally. I'm not like that personally. So if you want me to be nice and encouraging, I'll just tell you what I think you want me to tell you, but I won't tell you the honest truth because they might not match up and it might hurt your feelings." You have to kind of you have to be able to take it on the chin sometimes if you're going to be a professional. And so when she started doing that, I was just like, oh yeah, this is just her professional coming out in the
Yeah.
relationship. And I completely connected with it because that's how I am. And so, yeah, I bought it 100%. I loved it. And I liked that they weren't stupid in love. They were finding their way through the relationship. He's getting frustrated. She's getting frustrated. She almost says she wants to like quit altogether. And you can tell that this is a fragile thing they have right now.
Yeah.
And I think it paid off really well later on when they're making out in the mall because it felt like they got past the rough patch and they
That's a good
finally had
point.
this moment of connection that I really liked. I mean, we're romantics. We always love to see someone fall in love. And so seeing that final connection after such a tumultuous one at the beginning of the film, I really enjoyed.
That's a good point. I think the thing that bothered me about it was I had in the back of my mind the interview from, was it Superman 1 or 2? I think it was the first one where
Right. There's a couple of them, but yeah.
where there was that kind of flirty interview where she's asking about like, can you see my, you know, my underwear and stuff like that. And I think you know what I'm talking about, that
Yeah.
first interview for the first Superman. So I think I had that in the back of my mind. I wanted to see that. And I think sometimes that's the only downside of seeing the prior Superman movies before this is you get to certain scenes and then you're instantly comparing it to the
Yep.
previous ones. And if you like that one better, then it almost, diminishes this by comparison, which is not fair because you should, view this standalone and see if how it holds up. So maybe that's part of my issue with it. But yeah, you make a good point. It does pay off at the end, because if they're like that in the beginning and then they're like that at the end, then there's no growth.
Yeah.
So I see what you're saying. Yeah.
What did you think about Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor?
Fantastic. And I almost feel bad for him because I feel like a lot of his performances were not wasted, but not appreciated because of the silliness of what's going around. Like
Yeah.
it felt like he was just out of phase with the tone of the movie. But he has an absolutely amazing speech. I think I wrote it down. I thought I was so impressed by it, where he goes on like, I'm aware that envy consumes my every waking moment. I know when they mention Galileo or Einstein or one of these other twits in the same
Yeah.
breath as me, I feel a tide of vomit burn the back. I mean, I'm not doing it justice. The way he said it. So he's like, my envy is a calling. It's the sole hope for humanity, because it was driven me to annihilate. I'm like, I was feeling I had goosebumps when he was doing this,
Yeah.
So I thought he was amazing in this. I just felt like he was out of place because of everything around him.
What do you think about the Russian roulette scene?
Oh my gosh, that was that was intense. I felt so bad for that falafel guy. I relate to that falafel guy, because if Superman was here, I would be, like the biggest fan. I would help him, get him out of the that hole and give him a free falafel.
That's
That
the
was
that's the best about all these Superman or superhero movies, is when normal people go in to protect them, knowing that they're going to get their asses beat. Like they're like, no, you've
yeah,
done so much for us. Now I'm going to help you. I loved it in Spider-Man, the original Spider-Man's trilogy. I loved it
on the
in
train.
yeah.
On the train, right, where they're grabbing him. Yeah.
That makes me tear up every time I see it. I love it whenever we see it in a Superman film or even the Avengers films. I think there's one version where it happened once or something, but I love seeing that. And so I immediately, we're supposed to, we immediately connect with this dude. And then that Russian roulette scene comes around. I'm just like, there's no way. There's no universe that this guy is going to die. And then pop. Just like,
Yeah.
this is the most evil. Lex Luthor is, in the original ones, he's a little slapsticky. In Batman v Superman, he's a little connivey, but he's a little whiny, and a little insane, maybe a lot insane. And in this is the first time he's like really genuinely evil. Like he don't give
Yeah.
a fuck. He will cap you for a gag. Like and then he was just like, oh, I thought it was gonna last longer. Meh, all right. Like he's imprisoning his ex-girlfriends for tweeting about him wrong or stuff. Like this is a vindictive, maybe even a little too juvenile vindictive person, but he knows it and he owns it through that speech. Like he's self-aware. And
Yeah.
I think that's a really interesting take on the character as well. I've never seen this version of Lex before, so I don't know if he's ever been like this before, but I'm kind of here for it.
I liked it, and the fact that he was like jacked, he was not like a nerd on a computer. Like he's like a CEO of an evil corporation, and he's got leadership qualities. Like when he was like giving like shoulder rubs to the programmers who were punching Superman and stuff like that, and he was like hyping them up and stuff like that. It was believable why these people stay with him. I think a lot of these movies, I never understand why the henchmen stay with the evil villain that like murders them all the time. 'Cause he's on right, every movie, like they always like kill a henchman as like to show the other people to stay in line. But this, you could see why people would I'm sure they're well paid, but more importantly, he's got that charisma, and I thought that was a very cool portrayal of him that I hadn't seen in the previous ones.
Yeah.
Like in the original, like Gene Hackman, he only had one or two henchmen. This, he had like a whole team, and you could see why.
And a personal army, and yeah, I mean, he had much bigger in scope, I think, the character in this version than in previous ones.
Yeah.
It did kind of bug me, the whole video gamey aspect of it. Like he's controlling Ultraman as if it's Street Fighter 2. He's like doing button combos. And I was just like, I don't know. That's That seems like it would be so much more difficult than if he had like a virtual reality connection to him, and then he was acting it out, and so it would be instantaneous instead of him saying something, someone having to push a button, that button having to then be interpreted by Ultraman, and then he does it. That's like a long time.
Yeah, I thought that too. A virtual reality helmet would make much more sense. I was trying to think of ways in my head why that he would do it that way, and maybe if you had only one signal and Superman finds a way to break that signal,
Right.
then as opposed to having like 30 different ball cameras and each of them could sustain, but the dog took care of all of them anyway, Crypto. So
I loved that scene.
yeah, that part was funny.
I thought Crypto was, for the most part, I thought Crypto was great. I don't like that they
Yeah.
used him as this weird tool, like, where's my dog? With Lex, and Lex is like, I liked the scene. I didn't like how he was leveraged at the animal. Because, again, it makes sense because Lex is an evil, monstrous person in this. He would take someone else's dog and, mess him up and stuff. But,
Yeah.
like, seeing Crypto, like, running in that weird frozen globe thing, and he's like, yeah, once we decode him, we're going to just kill him. I was just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
my gosh, you're a monster.
It's one thing to take out the falafel guy.
Yeah.
Let's leave our dog alone.
Everyone has a line. One thing that I wanted to talk about here, I think they straight up just like said it differently in the film. And tell me if you recognize this too, or if I'm like sort of making up in my head. Superman has always been truth, justice, and the American way, but that's not how they phrased it in the film. It was there was no American in it. It was truth, justice, and something else. And I can't remember what they said, but it was so different that it just struck me instantly. I was just like, whoa, whoa. Like, why did they change it from American way to something else? And now I can't
Yeah.
remember what it was. Maybe it was like liberty or something like that. The whole thing was just
It was like a humanity thing.
Yeah.
It was something to do with humanity. They took the American out, and I was curious about that too. And I read up that was James Gunn's subtle, criticism of what's going on right now in our government, and the American way doesn't have the same meaning that it used to. So that was his, protest in a way. And I'm here for it. I think that. I know it changes the character, but the American way just doesn't mean what it used to at the moment. And I think that I see what he did, and I kind of agree with him. Yeah.
I want to sit with this for just a moment because
Yeah.
I understand it, but America is the promise of a more perfect union, which means it is inherently flawed, and we will inherently make horrible decisions from time to time, and then we will always try to eventually correct them. And the guiding, focus of all of that is our Constitution. It reminds us that we can be better and we can improve on this experiment that is America. And when we have a symbol like Superman, who is the epitome of what it means to be, that sort of propaganda-esque, what it means to be an American, that Boy Scout who always does the right thing, even in the face of evil and whatever, and we change it because it doesn't fit the time, I think we're forgetting that that's why we need it. We need to remind ourselves that we're not in that moment now, and we need something to say that this is not the right way we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be like him. Like, can we just redirect our focus here? And when you take it away, you don't have that direct comparison anymore. You're like, oh, well, he's not even American anymore. So, because, America sucks now. Well, America's always sucked in some way. We need to be better. That's the point. To be a more perfect union. And so I want it in. I want it to be hitting people in the face all the time that we are fucking doing a disservice to what hundreds of years of sacrifice has gone in to make this what it is. And let's not give up on it. It's worth fighting and dying for. So let's not strip it away from things, you know? I don't know. That's
No, I absolutely hear your point, but I think his take on it though is that Superman is more, he's human more than he is American.
right.
And I
Right.
think that if he's only acting in the interest of America, and it's devaluing other people, which I think a lot of people are doing right now. You're not worth something because you're from another country, or you're not from this little, place or whatever like that. So, and I think in the context of this movie where Superman leaves America to save this other country from being invaded, I think he was approaching it from that standpoint, that this alien is more human than all of us, and it has the best interests of the world in mind and not just the best interests of America.
Hmm.
So I think maybe he was looking at it from that context, but I absolutely get where you're coming from. If just because you don't agree with what America's doing now, you still want to, like you always say, like a more perfect union, not a perfect union, a more perfect union.
Yeah.
It's always trying to get better and better. It's you're reaching towards a goal you'll never get to, but it's the fight, it's the attempt of getting better that's important.
Yeah. And I do like the idea that Superman's not just an American in the context of the film and everything like that. I was thinking, from the outside looking in.
Yeah,
But in either case, the line just threw me whatever it was. I was like, oh
yeah,
shit, that's weird. That's different. But I get
yeah.
that, he's an alien. He's part of the world. He's not. So let's talk about that aspect of it then, because, I sort of alluded to at the very beginning. The lore changed, not just with his father surviving, as you'd mentioned before, or not dying, I guess you would say, um, but that his parents sent him down here not to protect or inspire,
Yeah,
but to breed.
yeah, I was so interested. This is one of the things I was most excited about with this review, to get your take on it, because you're more of a Superman fan of the comics, and this is an integral part of the lore that they switched. I personally liked it. I did not see it coming, and I think when you're adapting a comic book into a movie, I do like when there are some changes, because if it goes exactly like the comic books, then the hardcore fans are the ones that suffer in a way, because they know the entire plot. You can't do it. You can't change everything, because then it doesn't feel like the same character. But I thought this was a really interesting twist on the story, and it became that whole nature versus nurture thing, and it really put the emphasis on how he was raised, and those American values, those good people, Midwest of the country, heart of America values by his parents. I thought that put more of an emphasis on that, and I actually really enjoyed that spin. But it's very different. So as a Superman fan, what did you think?
I was okay with it. I thought it was, I, I thought it was strange, and then I started thinking, if our world is dying, I'm not concerned about the people on the other world. I'm concerned with having our species survive, and especially my kid that I'm sending to this other planet. So the framing of it, of saying get as many concubines as you can, and you know spread the seed, as it were. The framing was a little bit odd, but the context of the message was 100% on. Like, yeah, of course, you're going to want your people to, and it's not new. CW had the exact same story beat. The
Oh, did
Smallville,
it?
yeah, in Smallville. Even Batman, Man of Steel was like that, except it was Zod who was saying, we need to perpetuate the species here, on top of, the humans. And so the idea has always been a part of the lore. It's just how it's framed and how it's put in there that differs. And in this particular case, I like the idea that he was sent here to continue the Kryptonian species with humans, but by being here, he learned that humanity is something different and interesting and worth preserving. And he hasn't experienced Krypton, but well, I don't know if it's going to go into the story of it or not, but Supergirl did. And so I wonder if he's getting any of his Kryptonian history from her, or, like what the culture was like, what the people were like, how they differ from humans, and, you know, that type of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, because we don't know in this if he has all those crystals with all the knowledge.
Yeah.
They never allude to. If anything, they show that this one message was, cut it was damaged. So if that message was damaged, what about all the other, like you don't get the impression that you did with the Superman in the other movies that he has access to this wealth of knowledge. So you're left wondering if what he knows and what he doesn't know about, Kryptonian
Yeah.
culture. Did you, if you were Zor-El though, would that be the message if you were sending your child?
No.
What would your message be to him?
Well, it depends on how much you know about Earth, Like
Yeah.
they're so far away, they know it's a habitable planet that will make the yellow sun will make their sun incredibly powerful.
Right.
I think I would be very much Man of Steel Jor-El and be like, go there. You're going to be a god to them, maybe guide them along our version of what good and evil is. And, make your own judgments, but we're going to send you with an encyclopedia here.
Yeah.
This one was very much just like we had that one message. And the whole time, every time they showed the hologram, my wife was like, is that Lady Gaga? It's like, I have no idea.
Oh my God, I said the same thing. Because they were together in a movie. I was like, I thought that was like an inside joke.
I still don't know.
I'm glad no, it's not. I looked it up. It's not Lady Gaga, but that's so funny. Yeah, I was on the same page with her.
Yeah, I was like, I have no idea. That woman looks different every time I see her. So I can never tell who she is. I thought she was gay at one time, and then she married a dude. I was like, okay, well, I don't even know that. So
yeah,
like, fuck.
And when she first started singing, she was like mashed potatoes and dressed up as different things. So that's why we don't really know what Lady Gaga
exactly. Looks like. She's an enigma wrapped in a. All right, so let's talk about some of the other characters. What did you think of Mr. Terrific?
I wasn't familiar with that character from the comic books.
Me either.
And I like the idea of him, and I like the fact that he has, the Justice Gang. I thought that was I thought it was important in the story, because you're setting up this universe that it's not just him. So in that context, I liked it. But the way he was in that battle scene where he was no danger of getting hurt. Like if you're not in jeopardy, why am I invested in this fight?
Yeah.
Where he puts the shield on her and he just he's not even breaking a sweat. He's not even looking at the people he's fighting. That whole, I know that's very James Gunn.
Yeah.
And there's a whole scene in Guardians of the Galaxy 3 where they go through an entire spaceship and not one person gets hurt. But it takes me out of it. The suspended disbelief. It's like, all right, let me know when the fight's over since it doesn't matter, know?
Yeah,
so
that's
yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, so I didn't like him from that aspect. Yeah.
That's what I love about superheroes is that they take a licking and they keep on taking. They're the Timex watches. Like they get beat up, they get hit. This guy never once seemed to get touched, and then just him sitting in a chair floating around that big monster kaiju. I thought that was stupid.
Yeah.
He just looked dumb. But I like that he is sort of like the Samuel L. Jackson character of this universe. Like one-liner, little attitude. I like that part of him. And I like that he's super smart and he's techie and stuff. I think that's fun. But yeah, I just think he needs to get punched in the face every once in a while.
Right. Exactly.
What did you think about Metamorpho?
Was that the one that turned his hands to kryptonite and his baby Joey? I love that character. I wasn't familiar with him. Again, I'm not, Superman's not my favorite of the comic books.
Yeah.
But I thought in the movie it was done really well. I love the idea that he created this little sun to heal Superman, because all it is helium and hydrogen. It's not so hard to make a star. But I love that aspect that even if you're a hostage or a prisoner and you think that there's no hope, if you're just a decent human being, or in his case, whatever he is, and you see the falafel guy get shot and you realize it's more about my safety, or even my child's safety. This is wrong. And I just love that idea that no matter what jeopardy it takes, you could only see so much suffering. For some reason, it made me think of the concentration camps.
Ooh.
Where if you're a Nazi prison guard and you're just seeing day after day of all these people, getting, brutally murdered in the worst possible way and suffering. Like eventually you have to just say enough. So I love that character. Obviously this is not that type of movie, and I'm not supposed to take it that seriously, but I just love that element where he said, you know what, I'm going to help you because this is wrong, and I know I'm risking my son's safety, but I believe in you. I believe that you could save him, and more importantly, it's worth a chance because this is just wrong.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that too. The character threw me because I thought he was going to be like totally different. I don't know what I thought. I just thought he was going to be more menacing and like a villain, not what he was, just a prisoner.
Yeah,
But I like your point there of how much horror can you witness before you just have to make that moral decision of I can't do this.
yeah,
I'm hoping ICE agents are doing that right now in real life a
right.
little bit, but or the cabinet, the administration that we currently have. I hope someone in there is having like some real inner turmoil because sweet hell. But if we're just taking this, at face value for this one character, I thought it took too long for him to get there. As soon as you have my son, I don't care what it is. I'm going to do everything I can. You bring me Superman? Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm going to be helping this dude.
yeah, yeah.
Why would I not? That's insane.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was glad he got there. But, yeah, that character was totally different than I expected him to be. So let's talk about Guy Gardner, the Green Lantern.
This was tough because he is the quintessential aspect of the movie, that the silliness that I'm saying took me out of the movie, and the part that I didn't like. But he's so damn likable that I really, for some reason, I gave him a pass. Like his
Yeah.
scenes, I gave him a pass because, ever since Firefly and just everything he's
Yep.
ever been in, I just love him so much that I enjoyed it. It didn't feel like Green Lantern. I'm not the bowl cut. The just that's not how I pictured it. But again, it's not Hal Jordan, right? This is a different.
Yeah, Guy Gardner. This is how Guy Gardner looked and acted in the comics and in the animated films. But
Okay.
yeah, I just see Nathan Fillion and
Yeah.
a weird, outfit and haircut, and so I'm just like, yeah, you've got me because I like you.
Yeah. Right.
I
Yeah. Yeah.
instantly always go back to Firefly, and that was amazing, and so I just want to like everything he's in. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. And I was laughing. I don't. Again, it was very. They make this big to do like, oh, the superheroes are already a thing. They're out there, but there's three other ones. That's it.
Yeah.
Like
We don't
there's
see
three.
anyone else. No one comes when the world is splitting apart. Like.
Yeah. Like I just don't.
Yeah.
I don't. That doesn't track in my mind. I understand, and people are complaining that there's too many superheroes, but I'm like, there's four good people.
Yeah.
That's it, and then two bad guys that are super. That's it. And one of
Right.
them's a clone, and the other one was made by Lex, the nano girl, engineer or whatever her name is. So I don't know. I just like there's not too many.
No.
I think we should have had a little bit more if they were going to really lean into this being a 300-year-old thing. But
Right.
I know they're going to be fleshing that out. Hot Girl, what'd you think?
Well, it's funny having seen The Last of Us. That was just my first introduction to her. Um, yeah, I thought she was a fun character. I didn't mind her. She didn't get a ton of screen time in this.
Yeah.
But I thought, to flesh out the beginnings of the Justice gang, you definitely needed some, diverse characters to mix it up.
Dang. That gag
So
went on way
yeah,
too long.
it did.
That's
Yeah.
not what we're called. Well, let's vote on it.
Yeah, and that's why they allow Metamorphosis. And
Yeah.
he's like, I like the name. All right, you're in.
I thought Hot Girl was great. Her screeching started to grate on my nerves, but I thought her
Yeah,
attitude and her excitement and the way she just beats ass. Like she's cool.
yeah,
She's a cool character. I had a Hawkman toy as a kid, and so I always liked Hawkman. Um, and just seeing her like like screeching and like attacking, I don't know. I was here for it. I thought it was awesome.
yeah. I liked when she dropped that guy when she's, I'm
Mhm.
not Superman, and she just dropped him, and then they do that switch to the something dropping in a cup of water.
Yeah.
They do like that. That was fun.
I'm stupid because I didn't realize that Eve was Eve Teschmacher. I thought you were just making a comment about her being the same type of a character, but she's actually that name.
Yeah, yeah, that was and that was I think a fun, story beat because they took this character who in the original Superman movie was, kind of, you know, dim-witted the entire movie, and they gave it a twist where like she is dim-witted, but she's also very cunning, with the selfies. So
Yeah.
yeah, I thought that was a fun idea.
I want to know why Jimmy dislikes her so much. Is it her attitude? Is it her toes? Like, what is it about her?
Her mutant toes. It did remind me a little bit of Seinfeld because like Seinfeld would have like these beautiful women, and he'd always find like one minor flaw
Yeah.
that they speak too close to you, they stand too close when they're speaking, or some
Big
ridiculous
hands.
thing. Big hands, yeah, yeah. So I thought it was a little bit like that. Yeah.
Oh, it's just so odd. The engineer, what did you think about her?
I didn't. Was she made up for this movie? Because I had never
I
heard
didn't
of
know
her
anything
from.
about her.
Yeah, I wanted to know more. I felt like we didn't like understand, why she would put herself through this experiment. Um, and it reminded me very much of a Marvel movie with like Iron Man. How like in the beginning, like Iron Man had to put like the helmet on, and like before you know it, you get to like Iron Man 3, and it's like all nanobites that like the suit comes on, and it becomes, I don't know, not it takes me out of the suspended disbelief a little bit.
Yeah.
So I wasn't a huge fan of that character. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure she existed in other places and stuff. But yeah, there's that throwaway line of "I gave up my humanity for you" when she's talking to Lex. So it
Yeah.
alludes to the fact that she's the result of some sort of tech experiment of his, and that she's no longer human. It makes me start to think of like the cyborg guy in Star Wars prequels. Why can't I remember his name? General Grievous.
Oh, yep,
Where
yep.
it's just like the head and then everything else is just biomechanical. But her,
Yeah.
her being able to shift and twist forms and stuff, I thought was interesting. The whole suffocate Superman thing made no sense to me at all.
Yeah,
Like,
because he could go to space, right?
yeah, exactly. He he doesn't need air purportedly, and then you present it in this show, in the film at the very beginning where you can hear him rasping, so he clearly needs to breathe when he's trying to whistle.
Right.
Um, he's clearly suffering. But then the cut screen at the end is him sitting on the moon with the
Yeah.
dog.
Yeah.
There's no oxygen in
Yeah.
space. What the I don't get it. The whole plot point of killing him makes no sense when you do that. Why did they do that? I don't.
Right.
And we've
Yeah.
always seen Superman be able to fly up into space. That's how he like re-heals most of the time. So I
Yes.
thought it was very, very odd. They even had like other humans breathing in space when they were brought up there. So I don't know. I thought it was a
Yeah.
really stupid choice to like defeat Superman when you also had his clone right there, like the Bizarro Superman. He even looked stupid. Like weren't his eyes like pointing in different directions and stuff?
Yeah. Yeah.
He was like a mutant dude. So let's talk about the Bizarro Superman, or what did they call him in this? Oh, what did they call him?
Power Man
Power
or
Man,
Ultra
Ultraman. Yeah.
Ultraman. Ultraman.
So
Yeah.
what do you think about that?
Yeah, I thought it was fun because it was a callback to, was it Superman 4?
Yeah.
So anytime they referenced a prior Superman movie and had a fun twist on it, I did like it a little bit. I felt like he was underutilized, and maybe they're setting it up for like a Bizarro movie in the future. I saw one video after, which I didn't realize, but there was that scene right after the prison break where there was that black hole,
Mm-hmm.
and everything was flying into the black hole, but it was flying in as cubes. And I think the idea is because in Bizarro Land, apparently that was a square planet,
Oh,
and it was the opposite of Earth, so it's Hetara or whatever. Comic book
right,
logic.
right.
But that was a square planet, so I think they're maybe setting that up, like the building blocks from that black hole are now on the opposite side of the black hole, going to be, because Ultraman goes into the black hole, a different black hole under the New York City at the end of the movie.
Yep.
So I think they're setting that up maybe as a potential sequel.
Okay.
Which
I'd be okay with that.
yeah.
I mean, he was
Yeah.
already Bizarro Man anyway. That's the whole comic storyline of. I mean, Bizarro Man is comes from a different universe and everything, the Bizarro one. But I still like the idea that they took it from the original Superman films and the comics and sort of meshed it all together. And if that
Yeah.
ends up being like the Bizarro world and we get the Bizarro Justice League, yeah, that'd be kind of cool. I'd
Yeah.
like to see that. Okay, what else do we have here? Perry White was a throwaway character, totally inconsequential. The editor in chief of the Daily Planet.
They missed a golden opportunity at the end of the movie with him. So Superman and Lois Lane, they go into that building and they have that beautiful, kiss scene, but they walk right past Perry White, and he's like looking at them curiously. And then after they're in there for a while, then he tells Jimmy Olsen, how long have they been dating? But as they're walking in, for some reason, and this is the most random thought, he's looking at them curiously. I just had Lauren's voice in my head saying, I bet they be fucking.
Ah!
And I was like, that he should have said something like that. Because he could tell he knew, at that point.
I thought he was going to be like, that's Clark. Like, I
Oh,
thought
yeah,
that was
that would have
the
been good
realization. But I like Lauren's version. They be fucking.
They be fucking.
The little surprise about Alan Tudyk, I didn't know he was going to be the robot's voice, but okay. Apparently he's every robot's voice now.
It's in his contract.
Yes, I liked it though. What do you think of Jonathan and Martha Kent? They're sort of like old people vibes.
Yeah, so this is to me why I think Man of Steel is better, because Kevin Costner and Diane Lane, and then you compare that to, I don't even know the actor's name, and I feel bad about
Pruitt
it. But
Taylor Vince and Neva Howell.
Thank you. And they went for a different take on it, where they're like having trouble, picking up the phone in the beginning. So to me, I just prefer the more serious. Give me the better acting. Give me the better scenes with them. Version of Man of Steel. But having said that, and this is why I'm kind of like so in the middle on the fence with this movie. Having said that, I like the other take on it. There was that scene with him and his dad where his dad tells him, and it was just absolutely beautiful. So Clark Kent says, "Can I keep pretending that I'm your son?" And he says, "You are my son." And then he says, "Parents aren't for telling their children who they're supposed to be. We are here to give you all tools to make fools of yourselves all on your own. Your choices, Clark, your actions, that's what makes you who you are. And let me tell you, son, I couldn't be more proud of you." I'm bawling when he says that, because I say that to my son every night. That's the last thing I say to him before I go to bed, because there's always a chance I don't wake up. I'm not exactly in Superman shape. So who knows?
Dark. Jeez.
I'm sorry. I just want that to be the last thing he hears from me every night. So when his dad says that to him, I was very emotional. But then the next scene, they're back to the silliness, and that's my issue with this movie, is it's so up and down. What did you think of the parents?
The thing is I love the actor. Like Jonathan Kent, the actor, Pruitt Taylor Vince, I first saw from the old X-Files film series. I mean, he was in the Unruh episode, and he was great. He's been in horror films, and he's great. He's just a really great actor, and he's just known for being large and his eyes shaking. But I mean, he was in Deadwood, and he was fantastic in Deadwood. Like, he is a great actor, and to see him play Jonathan Kent, and his whole encapsulated presence is, he's a weepy man, meaning he's overly emotional, and he dotes over his son. Yeah, I'm here for it. I don't care who you are. Like, if you didn't have that, like I didn't, you will always want it, and you will always try to be that for your kids. And like, I don't know. I was all misty-eyed too. Like, I didn't openly weep because I was fighting it, but I wanted to, because it was such a beautiful moment. I thought Neva Howell's Martha Kent was totally throwaway. Just a garbage character. I don't even know why. Like, she was there for the joke of being an old person and not knowing that you don't have to shout at the phone, and not knowing how to use phones, and like old people are dumb. Ha ha. Okay. Congratulations from the joke. You don't need it.
Yeah, I couldn't tell if he was making fun of old people or Midwest people. Like I
Right.
didn't even get what her purpose was. And then again, compare that to Diane Lane and that
Yeah.
beautiful scene at the school. I want more of that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think this needed more serious heart than it gave us a lot of like serious heart, but it just cut it too much.
Yes.
It's like getting real cocaine or cocaine cut with baby powder. We need real cocaine, no baby powder.
Yeah, to me, it's so close to being great, but that the
Yeah.
silliness just ruins all those beautiful beats. And it's like, Confucius said, I think, don't tickle my balls, pour milk on me, and tell me I came, because I know the difference. I, you know,
Wow.
I this may be something lost in the translation, but I'm pretty sure he said something like that.
What the hell? Where did that come? I can't believe you brought
You
that
know,
out.
it's not. It's the language is butchered. The American language butchers
Right.
it.
It's not as elegant as
Yeah.
Chinese. Okay. Wow. Wow. On that
But you
note,
know what I mean? Like it's so close to being beautiful and
yeah.
having these great moments, and then they just go into the silliness too much, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. So what was a highlight for you of this film?
So there were a lot of highlights. To me, even though it changed the lore, and it's not as good as Kevin Costner, the dad, and that scene that on the porch,
Mhm.
but even it pays off at the end of the movie too, where instead of watching video of Zor-El, like in the beginning of the movie he's watching Zor-El's message, but at the end of the movie when he needs to heal and he's in the chair and they're using the sun to heal him and it's so painful. Like the first time the sun heals him, he's like in pain, so he watches the video to help him relax, the robot tells us. At the end of the movie he's watching videos of him as a kid, and it's almost like home movies, and he's watching his dad pick him up. I'm sorry. I get like
It's
emotional.
good.
He picks him up and like he's flying like Superman, and like who hasn't done that with their son at one
Yep.
point with the hands out? That's used to be how I put my son to bed, and I don't think that happened before the comic book of Superman. I don't know if you go
I don't
back
know.
like 100 years, who knows? But I don't think that with the hands outstretched in the Superman pose, and he watches that. The son heals him, but he's not in pain because he's relaxed and he's thinking of his dad. And that I was like, fuck, I forget the flaws of the movie. That right alone is exactly Superman, and it was
Yeah.
just freaking beautiful. And so, to me, the movie's a success because of scenes like that, and there just weren't enough of them.
Hell yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I remember doing that with my kids. They were like, pick me up and fly me around. And I just like fly them around like Superman up, getting down close to the ground and bring them up as high as I can bring my arms up. And even when they were a
Yeah,
little too old to be doing that, and it was a little too hard for me, I still tried, because they loved it. And it's just like, it's fun for me because I get to live vicariously through them. And we have
yeah,
this nice little connection in the moment. And yeah, seeing that, I just thought it hit me as much as seeing the kid version I think it was Man of Steel, where the boy was standing there with a cape and the dog next to him. Um, just those scenes when, we sort of flash back to them as kids acting like Superman, and then we know they're Superman later on. And I love that stuff so much. Yeah, my favorite parts about this, like the sort of highlights, I think the relationship of Lois and Superman, the heart, those moments with the dad, and then that final kiss with Lois. Finally, getting over whatever problems you had and appreciating each other for who they are. Um, I like that. It did. I don't think it was as earned as it should have been, but I still really liked it, and I love the dad stuff. So that's great. Did you have a
yeah.
least favorite part of this film?
Again, just the tone, and
Yeah.
I don't want to beat a dead horse. I just feel like I would have preferred they took a more serious approach. I think Zack Snyder really tried to imagine taking comic book characters and putting them in real life situations. What would the world look like? And as many flaws as there were with Zack Snyder movies, I appreciated that tone. And I love fun, but we've had enough of that with Marvel. I wanted to see a different take on this, and Zack Snyder really tried to do that, and I just preferred that approach.
Yeah.
This had the possibility. This had good casting. It had good, moments where they can do it. They can deliver the heart. There was good dialogue. They just chose to take a more Marvel approach to it, and
Yep.
I've seen a lot of that. I just wanted something different.
Yeah. My least favorite is definitely the too much humor. And then there's always that song fight scene in James Gunn's movies, whether it's an intro to all the Guardians of the Galaxies or whatever. Like we just had that with that bubble around and Mr. Terrific like messing everyone up. And they're all like engineers and stuff. And he's like messing them up. Like they're
Yeah,
scientists. Like there was the guards, like mess up the guards, okay. But like the people in Hawaiian shirts, what? You're just gonna like punch them in the face? What? Like I don't get
yeah,
it. They're just scientists. Like what are you doing? And then why are they going out there to fight a superhero knowing it's a superhero? That doesn't make any
yeah,
sense. I don't know, the whole
yeah.
thing was so odd. Just very, very James Gunny. But other than that, I thought this was a fun film. And let's get into our review here, or our ratings here. What did you give this?
Yeah, I was on the fence between a 3 and a 4 out of 5. I think because of the way it ended, that one scene with thinking about his dad and just the smile on his face, those home movies. I think I have to give it a 4. It has heart. It's not just a superhero movie. It definitely has some beautiful moments to it, and it's worth watching. And if we get more of this, I'll be in for it. It just, again, it was so close to being great, so I can't give it a 5. So I think 4 is fair.
Yeah. Yeah, and you had mentioned, can we give it half things? And I just don't have a graphic for the half ones. But I think a 3.5 would be a little bit more appropriate than a 4 because,
Yeah,
like you said, it has some really really good elements to it. Every Superman film has massive flaws. There's never been a perfect Superman film. I think Man of Steel got it as close as possible, but Clark's death or Kent's death, Jonathan Kent's death in that I thought was just so stupid.
yeah,
Even though I understood why they made the decision, I didn't like it. And so if that scene alone was different and he
right,
was saved there and died from congestive heart failure or something, then it would be a perfect Superman film. That one thing changed it so it's not. And I still think it's better than this, but I really like this as a Superman film. It made me reflect back on the early Superman Reeves films, and it sort of brought it into this different universe that is a little bit more, well, much more of the comics, where there's wacky weird stuff happening all over in the comics all the time. And it also reminds me that why comic book movies don't always translate well to film from the comic pages, because of the wacky stuff that you can get away with in the comic pages. And so that's why I like the adaptation of modern DCs, which, from Batman, from the original Batman with Michael Keaton, Tim Burton's, it's always been darker. It's always been more grounded, silly and slapsticky and weird, but always more grounded to earth and less Marvel humor esque. And this
right,
changed that. This took DC into a completely different place. And animated, it's always been here, but again, animated is more forgivable. This on live action, we're trying to get away from Marvel. We don't want to repeat it.
right,
So I don't know.
exactly.
So I think 3.5 would have been better, but I don't have a half, so 4 is the way to go on this. But in either case, thanks so much, man, for joining me on all these reviews with Superman and even sitting through the horrible ones.
I love these reviews. They've been so much fun, and it's given me appreciation for those terrible movies that I didn't have,
Yeah.
and it's brought to light some criticisms of the good ones, quote unquote good ones, that I never would have thought of. So this has just been so much fun. Really appreciate you, man.
Yeah. Well, for all of you out there, let us know what you thought of Superman 2025 or James Gunn's Superman or whatever you want to call it. Did Superman land for you? Was the story great? Did the humor take you out of it? And how about the Top Gun theme? Did that take you out of it? Let me know in the comments below. As always, remember the evil spelled backwards is live. So get out there and be evil.
Well, maybe don't kidnap a dog and make him watch imaginary squirrel videos evil. Maybe just kill a falafel guy evil. A little evil.